How do your previous experiences directly correlate to your current responsibilities? That is a transferable skill. And it's going to look different. It's always going to look different. You might have a transferable skill from 3 jobs ago that makes sense for this job that you didn't even use at your current job. So it's like almost like building a Rolodex of skills. And depending on the job that you're applying for, you just go through that Rolodex and you pick which ones make sense.
And welcome back to Have a Map, where we talk all things career. I'm your host, Mamadou Njai. Talking to a new friend of mine that we actually met at NBA All-Star. And I was just telling Drew about this, that I was supposed to get him into a party. They played me. So it was wild. It was out of the cold.
We got to know each other standing out in the cold and sitting in line. So it was good.
It was good. Good vibes. The party was lit. So sad I missed Quavo. And I do recall I left the party for Saweetie to come to that. And I was just like, this is ridiculous. But it happens. But before I introduce him, I want to introduce my co-host, Drew. Drew, do you want to say what's up? Introduce yourself real quick.
What's up, guys? My name is Drew. I'm a marketing and graphic design intern for DIM Events. And I'm also a senior in college, play football. But yeah, that's all.
Dope. And Drew, actually, his girlfriend, ironically, was in our internship, our summer internship right before Drew. So it was crazy how these things work out, but you got to keep it all in the family. Got to. And introducing our guest today, we have Karl Bostick. Karl, what's up? How's it going?
Good. What's good? Hey, thanks for having me, Mo. Drew, it is a pleasure meeting you, my brother. Things are good right now. All things considering, I have my health. My family, they have their health. So, I'm just excited to really dive in here and really chop it up with you guys. I love what you're doing. Keep doing it. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity to really just talk.
Beautiful. Love that. And thank you for taking the time today. We appreciate it so much. And just to get right into it, right? What do you do, Karl? Like, what's the thing that you do?
Yeah, so if you don't follow me, make sure you follow me at Kirko_Canes. I'm a storyteller. That's really like who I am. That's what I do. Um, as a profession, I'm an athlete, marketing manager. Um, you know, Trying to think of new ways to kind of build and grow. I can see a world where I'm not necessarily working directly with athletes or only athletes anymore, but for right now, I'm trying to own my vertical as an athlete marketing manager, aka Brand Newton. Just trying to really help athletes tell their stories and introducing them to new audiences. And nowadays there's so many different mediums and ways to kind of help articulate different aspects of your personality, of causes that you care about, of your upbringing, of relatable stories and scenarios and experiences. And my job and really what I love to do is take the time to really understand who my client is and then go out and find the most innovative, most exciting way to kind of help bring that story to life.
That's very well said. Very, very well said. And yeah, that's so interesting because I feel like, and not to go too deep into it, but I feel like athletes and really going back, right? I really feel like, and I could be wrong, like with LeBron James, it kind of started there with a lot of storytelling as far as like owning your story and then taking that and creating your own narrative. Mm-hmm. And since then, the huge market of understanding what these athletes are interested in. And now people are curious and want to learn so much. Mm-hmm. Is that kind of what you've seen as well? Is that like the starting point of it? Or do you think you saw it a little earlier too?
I think, me, a personal, as an athlete, I played football in college. I think for a lot of people, it was how do I how do I gain more fans? How do I
Mm,
attract more people to become a fan of me? Because like we live in a capitalist society where people want to make money, and obviously the bigger community you have, then that's something that you can then monetize again, specifically in this digital age. And the beautiful thing about developing a community is your community then becomes IP for you, right? Like,
yep.
you take an athlete like Juju Smith-Schuster or LeBron James, their community is very specific to them. I can't monetize LeBron James community, you know. And if a brand wants to partner with LeBron James to get in front of his community, they have to go through him. And I think as athletes, the thought of, okay, I'm going to play by the rules and, my team is going to cut me a check. Obviously, that's always the goal, but people evolve. They want more for themselves. So what I saw was, people having this like insatiable need to kind of create new streams of revenue, new opportunities to grow. And that all comes from IP. And I think to your point, the need to kind of storytell and to break into new verticals and kind of take the helmet off, take the jersey off, and showcase who you are off the court, off the field, off the pitch, off the mound, comes from the need of needing to develop IP. And if you play for the NFL, like if I was an NFL player, I can't monetize anything that has my team on it, logos, the NFL shield, because I don't own that. So I need to go create an experience that I can own. And the only way that you can do that is by taking off the jersey, taking off the helmet, putting the cleats to the side, putting the basketball to the side, and showcasing who you are as a person. Because something that I tell my clients all the time is you're going to be Drew the person way longer than you're going to be Drew the football player. That time is going to come to an end. And if you wait until that time to start thinking about who you are as a person, it's too late.
Oh,
Absolutely.
You know? And
Absolutely. I love that.
awesome. Yeah, man. I mean, and a lot of that kind of came from personal experience, right? When we talk about like where I've been in my journey, I played football in college, and I had a very decent career by most people's criteria. Played in high school, played in multiple state championship games, got a full ride scholarship to two different universities because I ended up transferring. Um, and then at my senior year, I break my leg, you know, completely shattered bones. And at that point, football was taken away from me. And when football was taken away from me, I went through, a self-identity crisis. Who am I? I'm no
mm,
longer Karl Bostick, the football player. I have this 4-hour block that used to be, dedicated to practice. I'm not at practice anymore. So what do I do? Should I be reading? Should I do more homework? What do I do during these 4 hours? I don't know, and that definitely took me down a very deep rabbit hole of depression, anxiety, especially as a senior in college. Like life is becoming more and more real, right? And I wish I would have started thinking about who I was as a person earlier so that when football came to an end, I didn't flinch. And for me, what I do is I provide that guide, that emotional support, but also that strategic thinking so that for the guys that I work with, I'm all about off the field, right? I want to celebrate with you your wins. I hope you win a championship. I hope you get, that big contract that you've been working for. But we all know that nothing, in life is promised, specifically in professional sports. And we all know that that time is going to come to an end. But we can prepare for that now
yep.
because what you care about, if you're a big mental health advocate, that's not going to change when you're no longer playing in the NFL. If you are a big advocate for, advanced screening on cancer, that's not going to change once you leave the NFL. if you're big into music, into fashion, into anime, those things don't change because you're no longer an NFL player. So we shouldn't be waiting until you are no longer an NFL player to start having conversations and building relationships with people that can kind of help get you in front of those, those new audiences and creating mutually beneficial partnerships, you know? Because at the end of the day, like that's all marketing is, that's all storytelling is. It's getting with other people and working together to tell a unique and succinct narrative, you know. And I love, a lot of my job is thinking, okay, cool, here's what I know about this guy, here's how I can tell this story, boom. But what's an untraditional way that we can tell this story?
Right. Something new, something a
Something
little bit.
new, exactly, something different. Like, yes, we can, if you're saying that you're into to sneakers, and a lot of people aspire to be on Sneaker Shopping with Complex. Great show, love it. But if you're into sneakers, how cool would it be to take, maybe a kid from the inner city sneaker shopping and kind of bond over your love for sneakers that way, and kind of reverse, spin it and put it on its head. And instead of you shopping with someone else, you're taking a kid shopping, or finding a brand partner, to kind of help surprise a bunch of kids, before their first game with new sneakers,
Yeah.
or working with an artistic graphic designer like yourself, Drew, to reimagine one of their favorite sneakers. Nowadays, especially when it comes to sneaker design, guys are constantly putting new designs and stuff on their sneakers on game day. Like that in itself is a process, and there's a story behind it. Oftentimes, we just see the pictures of the Naruto cleats, but like, let's talk about your love for anime that inspired you to even ask for that. That's kind of how I think about things, because at the end of the day, I try to put myself in the shoes of the consumer, right? What are the different things that we can do to give somebody a reason to be a fan? And then
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and that's what I do. That's what I focus on. That's my day to day. And it took a while to get here, but I definitely love it.
Absolutely. And I relate so much to just the whole idea. Like I'm coming in and this is my senior year, college senior year of football.
But
No, you're good. You're good. But like this whole year, I've just had to do a lot of like self-inspection and like trying to figure out like what am I gonna do? Like what am I gonna do for the rest of my life? And like it's just so much beyond football. But it's like also how do I apply that?
no, absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, it's an evolving thing. I feel like as human beings, we have this terrible nature of needing things to be so final, right?
Mm.
Like you be talking to a girl and she's like, "What are we? What is it? What?" And it's just like, and as guys, we're like, "Yeah, we're just going with the flow, right?" Like, yes, in that specific instance, you want to be a little bit more descriptive and prescriptive of what that relationship is like. But when it comes to like who you are and the things that you care about, like that's going to be an evolution, because for most of us, the things that we cared about 10 years ago are not the same things that we care about today,
Mm.
right? So it's okay to kind of always leave a little. We always talk about saying leave a little for yourself, leave a little for your mental health, leave a little bit for your peace, leave a little bit to grow, right? Like there's always going to be a little that you don't know, but that's growth. And that's going to manifest itself in different ways. You might have a conversation like, I got into reading. I used to be like, yo, I probably will never read a book again. Like, I just don't like the concept of reading. Like, I understand like retaining and getting new information. But like, if you were to ask me 10 years ago that you were going to become a reader and you were going to read 9 books in 7 months, like, I'd be like, for a book report, like, why am I did I get in trouble? Like, why would I ever do that? But that I left a little, and not having those prejudices or those biases about an activity or an aspect of your life. As you grow, you start to see value in things that you didn't see value in before because your perspective changes, right? Like life is too short to make every mistake in the book. So it's super important that we learn from others. And for I almost like look at books as, you know, someone took the time to write out their personal experiences, to write out these stories, to write out these strategies. I think it's ignorant if you discredit whatever's in that book, because clearly it was important enough for them to spend time publishing that book. I'm like, hey, you might be worth it to actually open it up and read a few pages. You never know. And I kind of challenged myself to do that, and I've been pleasantly surprised ever since, man. So I definitely hear you on that.
Absolutely, that's great stuff. So when I was looking into you, you have a super impressive resume, like Boeing,
Thanks, man.
Bleacher Report, Rock Nation. So I guess just with like all of your experience, what's been like your favorite project or like place to work?
Well, when you look through my resume, what was the one thing that like stood out to you as like, that's interesting? I'd love to know more about that.
Um, I guess your time at like Rock Nation doing the sports digital like strategy, like what kind of stuff were you doing with
See, I
that?
tried to set him up, Mo, for a
I
specific
I
question.
knew what he was saying.
Yeah,
He
and he
really
went
wanted you
straight.
to he wanted you to go with the NASCAR one.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. Like there's all this other stuff. Like I worked at NASCAR, I worked at Boeing, aerospace, like all this
Yeah.
stuff. So we'll talk about Rock Nation as well, because I definitely did enjoy my time there. Shout out to the team over there. But I think the biggest thing though, if someone were to look at my resume, right, you're gonna see a lot of different companies. And something that I always tell people, specifically athletes, right? Because oftentimes as an athlete, you didn't get a chance to do all the internships. Yo, when I graduated college, I had one internship, and that was at Fire Quip in Burlington, North Carolina. Shout out to Fire Quip. Taught me how to make 17 different types of fire hoses by hand. I kid you not. That was my job, bro. Like literally measuring out the hose itself, what type of fabric, what type of inner lining, what type of material, what type of polymer, measuring it. Then you saw it and cut it with like straight up with a saw. You have to cut it, make sure that it's the exact measurement. Then you got to put a coupling in it. You got to put the grease in. You're like literally holding the thing because it's like literally this big, and you're holding it between your legs, and you're hammering the coupling in it, and the coupling is the thing that you attach to the fire hydrant itself, right? So I'm in there with grown men, like grown men, grown men, working literally from like seven to seven, or whatever most days, in like a basement in North Carolina, like crazy. That was the only thing I'd ever done from a professional standpoint. And I was like, there's no way I can get hired with this. Like literally no way. And the thing that I learned and through my experience, I had the gift of gab. Thank you, God, family, whoever I got the gift from. But it's all about how do you take that and pull out the transferable skills and make that applicable to whatever you're talking about. And specifically for athletes, I think it's incredibly important to learn that skill. It's something that you should practice, sit at home in front of a mirror, maybe write down whatever you have to do. But if somebody's asking you like, okay, cool, you were team captain, what does that mean at, live from dinner enterprises? Like what does that mean to me? Oh, you woke up at 5 a.m. and worked out. What does that mean to me? Oh, you orchestrated a fourth quarter comeback, and scored the winning touchdown. Why do I care? If you aren't able to do that, it doesn't matter what your resume looks like, because when you're sitting across from an employer, when you're trying to get that next job, whether you're trying to get, a title bump, a pay raise, what have you, you need to be able to understand what you did at Bleacher Report. How does that make sense for Rock Nation? What did I do at, Boeing? How does that make sense for Bleacher Report? What did I do at NASCAR and Octagon? How did that make sense for Boeing? Right? Like it's always making sure that you're able to connect the dots, because when you think about a resume is nothing more but a track record of your experiences. Yes, you live those experiences. The hope is that you learn, but if you can't tell me what you've learned, I don't want to say you're useless, but then like I don't know what value you bring to my company. All I see is a whole bunch of companies. So I definitely did not answer your question, but I had to get that off my chest. Transferable skills. That is the most important thing that you'll get out of this podcast. You have to hone and understand your transferable skills and be able to effectively articulate that to somebody if they ask you. To answer your question, though, Boeing was the most interesting job I'd ever worked at. And when you think about just some of my accomplishments, I actually got an award from the Navy from the U.S. Navy while I was working there for my work on the V-22 Osprey program. There's a big situation. I was fresh out of college too, and I was like, "Yo, what is this?" And the person that was overseeing me had gotten sick and was like on leave, so I was now like in charge. And like I remember just being in a room down in Georgia and like on literally in a boardroom, and they were like, "Yeah, Karl, sit at the head of the table because I need you to walk everyone through this process." And I like literally, I'm 24, maybe 23. Everyone's 35 plus,
Crazy.
and I'm just like, and they're like generals sitting at this table, like with the stars on the chest and all of that. I was shaking, literally, like, and then I think we should do, and I was just doing that the whole time. But it all turned out well. And honestly, that entire experience taught me how much confidence plays into decision making. Because, like, look, we're human. You're gonna make mistakes, but if you do it 100 miles an hour, it just might work out. It just might work out. So always, everyone who's listening, remain confident, even if you don't think it's the 100% the right thing to do. Just do it confidently, and oftentimes people will take notice. But that was definitely probably my most interesting of professional experiences thus far. That really kind of honed me and allowed me to kind of build a lot of new skills that I use today. And often it's those intangible things, right? That people are like, oh, you can't teach. I mean, you can teach it. You just oftentimes need to put yourself in just a very different type of environment for those type of skills to come into play and to allow you to get better at those things.
No, that's really important. And one thing I really want to hone in on is transferable skills, right? For you, when you think of transferable skills, one, what does that mean to you? And then the other portion of it is how did you figure out what your transferable skills were? Because I think that's a big thing, right? People don't know how to define transferable skills, and they don't know how to figure out, all right, this is a transferable skill because it might come easy to me, right? It might be something that I just do in my sleep and I don't know how to identify it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you kind of hit on a few things there, and I'm gonna try and break them down in order. So for me, like, what is a transferable skill? A transferable skill at its core is something that you did somewhere else and correlates to what you are being asked to do at somewhere else, right? So if we think about it in a professional sense, what did you do at your last job that can help me in this job? And when you talk about what is a transferable skill, it's going to look different for everybody because everybody's experiences are different. And it's also going to be different based on the role that you're now applying for, right? So if for example, like for me at Boeing, I was in project management, contract negotiations, right? The ability to analyze information. Yes, it's different at Bleacher Report, but the ability to analyze information is still relevant in that role. And that's kind of what you play up when you're talking through, your transferable skills. It's less about what you actually did and how you use that experience to actually do what your new job is asking you to do. And I think I said that a little clunky, so I'm gonna try and break it down again. It's how does your previous experiences apply to your current responsibilities? Better yet, how do your previous experiences directly correlate to your current responsibilities? That is a transferable skill. And it's going to look different. It's always going to look different. You might have a transferable skill from 3 jobs ago that makes sense for this job that you didn't even use at your current job. So it's like almost like building a Rolodex of skills. And depending on the job that you're applying for, you just go through that Rolodex and you pick which ones make sense, based on what you're trying to do. And then you just craft up your pitch from there. And then well, I think the last thing you said was like
Identifying.
yeah, identifying them. So that it was very interesting, especially the way that you phrased it, because you were talking about like things that come easy to me, and to me, that's not necessarily a transferable skill as much as it is a strength, right? Um, if you see somebody who is 7 foot tall, you should play basketball. You're 7 foot tall. I'm just saying, like, if you're 7 foot tall, it's gonna come easy to you to get rebounds because you're 7 foot tall, right? And I think that oftentimes can be a transferable skill and can oftentimes also lead you to where your transferable skills are. But I think more importantly, when you think about things like that, that then kind of leads yourself more to like, what is your competitive advantage? What are the things that you do far and away better than anyone else because they come easy to you? And I think for most people, they conflict with the brutal facts, if you will, because if you were 7 feet tall, and you were like, I want to be the best gymnast in the world, like that is competing with the brutal facts. You are
Right.
7 feet tall. The best gymnasts in the world are often what, 5'1", 5'2", maybe 5'5". Like you're at a genetic disadvantage already. So the fact that you even want to endeavor to being the best gymnast in the world is probably going to be a waste of everyone's time. And I think us as humans, we need to confront the brutal facts, always first and foremost, right? To your point, an easy way to do that is to understand what you do better than everybody else. Ask yourself, what feels like fun to me that others feel like work? That feels like work to other people. What feels like fun to me that feels like work to other people? That once you start asking yourselves those type of questions, you'll definitely be on the right path.
Absolutely. Where in your journey did you realize like this is what you want to be doing and like realize that like these are your skills?
So that's a great question. And honestly, like I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't know if this is what I want to be doing, if that makes sense. Like I never said like athlete marketing is it for me. And I don't even feel like that right now. I don't feel like athlete marketing is it for me. I feel like it is a tool, it's a vehicle for what ultimately I'm trying to do with my life, which is in a lot of ways giving back, helping people, putting other people in position to be successful. And I think sometimes we get caught up in the day to day of like, I want to be vice president of PR, or do you want to help people that struggle finding the words to speak out about causes that matter to them?
Mm.
Those are two very different things, right? Because you can do one without the other, right? And also, you always got to be careful of chasing titles, chasing companies, chasing, roles, because this pandemic has taught us anything that can be given to you can be taken away. So if you're out here chasing, the dream of working for a specific company, I hope it happens for you. But remember, they gave you that job. A lot of people lost their jobs in the past few months. A lot of people who worked hours, years. I can't believe I started with hours, but a lot of people worked years, to get to where they were. Long hours is what I meant to say. Missing family events to get that SVP role, and then cuts happen, numbers. They had to cut the salary somewhere. They had to cut the expenses somewhere. And is it fair? No, but it's life. So I think at the end of the day, when we're thinking about like how do we go about, the things that we want to achieve, or how did I know that this is what I want to do? I want to help people. My goal in life is to create an opportunity for other people. And I think I'm in the best position I've ever been to do that. And that's my goal. And whether that takes me to another company, whether that takes me, to Asia or wherever, like I'll go wherever I feel like I need to go to continue the pursuit of that thing, because I know that that thing isn't tied to anything that can be given to me. The ability to create opportunities for others is not something that anyone can give to me. And that's what allows me to sleep at night. That's what allows me to get up every morning and go chase this dream, because I know that what I'm chasing is something that's so great, so much greater than any value that I can gain for myself, that I know that if I continue to chase that thing, I'm headed in the right path, regardless of what my day-to-day looks like.
I love that. Love that. You mentioned COVID and the impact of that. How has that impacted your day to day, and like how did your day to day look prior, and how does it look now?
I mean, it just changed. Like, once again, when we think about storytelling, it just causes us to look at everything differently through a different lens. Obviously, like in person is tough right now. Digital, everyone's on their phones. That's a thing right now. So I don't think it necessarily made my job tougher. If anything, it's made my job easier in a lot of ways, because guys don't have to physically go anywhere to do anything. Like, if I can schedule you an interview, you're doing it on Zoom, like, or, we got a content execution or something I want to do from that perspective. It's on Instagram. Like, there's really no like in-person shooting. I think that is probably the toughest part, limiting the assets. Drew, I mean, you have the graphic design background as well. Like, all right, I can't go film, I can't go shoot myself, so I'm limited to the pictures that just exist. I had to do. I was working with one client on a book cover, and I was like, "Yo, send me pictures of you and your daughter," and like he gave me the pictures that he had. I ended up pulling one off of Instagram and then editing that one, like cutting him out that picture and doing the whole thing there. I would prefer to have been able to go take pictures of him and his daughter myself, or even, we have him and his daughter do a photo shoot, but you're at the mercy, especially when you're working with your clients and trying to coach them up on how to take pictures of themselves. It's not always the best situation.
Yeah, I bet.
That's so true. And talking about just hustle and bustle, and you kind of giving them some context about you living in New York, where it's just like go 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 all the time. One thing we always talk about here in our internship and our program is about self-care, right? Taking care of
Always,
yourself,
always.
making sure you're mentally sound and tuned, because the being in the creative industry, it's all about your ideas, your mind. Like, how does that work? And the moment that you drain yourself out, the ideas will not be there. It won't flow out as easily, right? But for you, what has been that self-care journey, right? Because I think it consistently evolves for everyone and it changes. So what have you seen from your self-care journey?
For me, self-care, a big part of my self-care regimen is fitness related. I'm in the gym all the time, every day, literally almost every day. Um, and I think, and then also recently, about, I guess since, maybe since like January, February, um, really getting into nutrition, you
Mm.
know. And we only have one body, we each only have one body. So I try with all of my might to make sure that I'm treating my body as healthily and, properly as I can. I'm make sure that I'm going to sleep at the right time and all that good stuff, because like I don't, like we've been taught that like you got to always be grinding. You like team no sleep, and I'm always working. Oh, another person's sleeping, I'm up working. And I think, you know, that made sense for a lot of people, but it depends on what you do, right? Because if we look at sports as a great use case, I'd argue that some of the best players don't necessarily practice all the time. They're very efficient. The intensity never drops. I'm sure LeBron James's intensity from a training and preparation standpoint never drops. Does he need to do it 8 hours a day every day? Probably not. Maybe, one day is only 2 hours, but for that 2 hours, he's going to go 100 miles an hour for 2 hours. Then he's going to rest. And I think that that's kind of how I approach my day to day, because at the end of the day, like when we talked about it before, you know, where I'm going, like I have no idea how I'm gonna get there. I don't, but I have this idea, right? And I'm chasing an ideal and a belief that I want to be in a position to create opportunities for other people. That's what I'm chasing. And on a day-to-day basis, I know that the little things that I'm doing is trending in that direction. I firmly believe that they're going to get me in that direction. And I think when you move that way and you move intentionally in that way, you don't feel like you need to stay up late and do more. And I feel like sometimes, not all time, but I think sometimes that feeling and that need of needing to stay up late grinding and all that good stuff comes from insecurity, right? Feeling like you didn't do enough during the day, or maybe you have multiple hustles, which is fine, but maybe it's a time management thing, right? And you had to work from 10 to 10, and now from 10 to 5 is the only time that you have to work on that other thing, which is fine as well. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to self-care, you really have to balance it. Because if you think you can go from 10 to 10 to 10 to 5 a.m. every day, at some points, something's gonna happen. And I hope for most people, they say pressure makes diamonds. I hope that thing is that you come out shining. You became a diamond. You put yourself through so much pressure that you just became a diamond. I hope that. But there's been a lot of case studies on things going the other way, from putting yourself under immense stress in perpetuity. You can do it for a little bit, for sure. If you want to grind, saying like this week, I'm going 10 to 10 and 10 to 5 a.m., do that. Next week, do not do that. Next week, get some sleep, get rest, eat right, you know? Because like it's life. That's the thing people don't realize, I think, sometimes. Like, yes, we have career and goals and aspirations, but like, if you really boil down why we chase our dreams, it's to live a better life, right? When you think about the concept of money, money only exists because it's how we exchange for things in America. If you literally got like a very nice apartment based on your body fat percentage, think about that. Think how crazy that would be. Think you could only live in the nice areas if you were under 10% body fat.
That'd be crazy.
Yo, right? People be sleeping, people be eating right, people be jogging, people do everything they can. They be living the healthiest lives possible if that was the criteria, right? Like every day, like, yo, your job today is to ingest less than 5 grams of sugar and we'll pay you this salary. But every day you have to write down everything you eat and you can't eat over 5 grams of sugar. Think about how healthy people would live their life. But that's not the case. The case is you need to get the dollar, right? So people sacrifice everything else because the dollar is the most important thing. And I think we just need to rethink that, because at the end of the day, this thing is life. This entire ecosystem that we're in is life. And yes, you can have all the money in the world, that's fine, but that is only a small part of your life. Like, if you think about it on a daily basis, like you can go days without spending money if you wanted to.
Oh yeah.
You can't go days without living. Like once you wake up, life has started. You may not have gained a single dollar. You may not have spent a dollar, but life has started.
Yeah.
So for me, when I'm thinking about self-care and my health and things like that, I prioritize that with the utmost, with the understanding that I'm trying to live a long life.
Mm.
A long life. I want to have kids. I want to see grandkids. I'm trying to live a long life. Longevity for me is the goal in all ways. Longevity in my passions, longevity in my physical well-being, longevity financially, like to live a long life, because at the end of the day, if you're not trying to do something like that, then I don't know. I think, something's got to give. If you're sitting here saying, YOLO, and that's how you live your life, I think you're heading down a slippery slope, my friend.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Just all about priority, all about discipline. And that takes me discipline, time management. Those are some of the main things that I've learned from my time playing football. I was curious, what are some of the biggest things that you've been able to use in every day since then?
Adversity, how to handle adversity, right? Like, how do you manage emotion?
Mm.
What are useful emotions? I will say this, and this is a very hot take. I'm probably gonna get backlash for this. I do think that there are some useless emotions that we as humans, like it's just human nature to have these emotions. But there are some emotions that, if you think about it in the grand scheme of progress, like if the motto is progress, things that are gonna help you, there are definitely some emotions that like do not help. You know, things like greed, jealousy,
Mm.
like those emotions, though they're felt, they're useless. Like if I'm jealous of the other running back getting more carries than I am, now what?
It's not helping anyone.
Yeah, that's literally help. That is honestly hurting people, right? Because maybe me, because I'm an older running back, I'm the veteran. I see him make a mistake. I don't tell him because I want his reps.
Right.
But that's not getting him better, because God forbid I get hurt and now he's the only running back and I had the opportunity to make him a better player, and now the team suffers because he's not as good as he could be.
Mm.
And I think, I think about football and the skills that, like, I think emotion, we are so emotionally charged, right? From how we make our decisions to, how we react to things. It's all comes from emotion. And I think, it's important for all of us to be able to control our emotions, feel them, always feel them, never suppress them. Feel that shit. You're jealous, feel it, but then recognize everything, belongs in its place. And, if you're living in a place of positivity and in a place of progress, things like greed, jealousy, it's another one, even anger, really don't have a place in your life. And like I said, I'm not saying to suppress your emotions. I'm not saying, to self-soothe in other ways, because we know how dangerous things like that can be. I'm saying feel the emotions. Yes, be angry, break something if you have to. But understand that as you try to continue to go on this journey, because when we talked about it, right, leave a little for growth, right? Understand that this could be an opportunity for you to grow. When you feel that jealousy, when your coworker gets that promotion that you have been eyeing, right? Feel that jealousy, but also look at it as an opportunity to grow a little, right? What could you learn from that experience? And it may be by being able to kind of put the jealousy to the side, you'll have enough confidence to reach out to her and say, yo, sis, congratulations. I'd love to sit down and understand how did you move? How were you able to get that promotion? Because I was going for it too. You know, I didn't get it, well deserved, but I want to know for next time, how can I get better? And then maybe she fills you in on one thing that you never even thought of.
Yeah.
You know? And then the next time it comes around, you get it because you did that one thing. But think about how crazy it would be if you let jealousy get in the way of your greatness right there. Useless emotions.
I feel like we about to just go out and storm the field right now. I'm ready to go with a game. Let's go do it. Team effort.
Exactly, man. I think at the end of the day, we just got to realize that whether we truly understand it or not, things are always going to work in your favor. Things will always work in your favor if you trust it and you face if you face every sense and event and of adversity with positivity, you're going to figure out how to flip it. I firmly believe that, man. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who have lost jobs, but they approached it from a place of love, positivity, from a place of challenge. Like, all right, cool. I lost my job. Now what? They're going to come out on top, probably even better, right? I've seen a lot of people joining new companies, starting new companies, all that good stuff. And, I hope everyone is successful in their new ventures. And it's crazy because like for those companies that were started out of something like someone getting laid off, that's the ultimate flip. You got laid off, started your own company, and now you're successful. That's all the way.
Yeah. No, that is so true. Especially COVID has taught us a lot to be comfortable in that space of maneuvering, right? I think that's so important because the more that you get comfortable in that space, nothing can really shake you, right? Because a lot of people, I feel like you see that maneuver, you see the shift, and you get scared, right? And being scared is completely fine, right? But it's identifying where is that feeling of being scared coming from and being able to take that and use that to move forward and say, okay, I understand why I felt that. This is actually what I'm going to do about it. And progressing in that way, right? And I think even just for our company, we've seen a lot of innovation with, online events, doing more social media programming, brand stuff. So it's been very interesting because we're an events company. So once right after All-Star, once everything started getting canceled, you're like, oh, okay, we gotta maneuver, shift some things up.
And that's a beautiful thing to hear too, because right, and everyone listening, like it just goes back to leave a little for growth, right? You left a little, and that allowed you to maneuver, right? You always need a little bit of room. People who are chasing specific things, you have no room to maneuver, right? If you're like, yo, I want to win the finals MVP, that is a very specific goal. And if you don't get there, you feel like a failure. You're upset. You might overtrain because that is your goal. Or you could be the best basketball player you can be. Gives you room to maneuver. Maybe you win a 3-point championship, all-time, 3-point scorer in NBA league history. Now, it's not a finals MVP, but you left yourself room to maneuver and you were able to kind of understand what comes easy to you that looks like work to everyone else. You gotta balance that, because like I said, it's life. You're gonna be doing this thing hopefully for 80 plus years.
Yeah.
You gotta have something. You better be able to control it somehow.
Thanks.
That's all I gotta say.
One thing I like to end with is music. I'm a big music fan or music lover. And when it comes to music, a lot of the time, I listen to music based off of the mood that I currently am in, right? For both of you, I would like to know what maybe album, maybe it's a specific musician, maybe it's a specific song, has been maybe a quote unquote mood for this week for you?
Mm. So, fun fact about me, when I work out, I listen to a very broad spectrum of music. Very, 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 very broad. Everything from Lil Durk to Rihanna. All right. So for this week, Rihanna has been heavy in rotation. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I want to get the title right because I know the song, but I want to get the title right.
That's just your heavy rotation right there, Rihanna. Okay, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
she was. So the song is "Bitch Better Have My Money." Okay, cool. I
Okay.
wasn't sure if that was just like the hook or if that was like I thought like the song was called "Money" or something. But yeah, yo, like I was on the treadmill and like I had just like turned the intensity up a little bit, and that was like the next song that came on. I was like in a zone, dog. I was just like, yeah, yeah. So for this week, that's kind of the same level of intensity that I felt on the treadmill. That had been kind of the vibe I had throughout this whole day. And, I kind of am going to challenge myself to kind of keep that energy throughout the rest of this week. But yeah, bitch, better have my money.
Dang, I literally once you said Rihanna, that's the song that I literally came to my head. I'm like, that's probably the song he would pick because I don't know any other Rihanna song that's just like super high tempo to be working
Right?
out.
Like she really doesn't have a lot of like, I mean, what's the other one? Oh nah nah. Like that's kind of like, but it don't have the same intensity though. Like
Right.
you feel me? And also she don't make music no more, so there's that.
Hey,
Fancy
she got better things to do.
facts. Hey, she left room for growth.
That's facts.
She left room for growth. People didn't. It hit everybody like a curveball, but she left room for growth, and now she said, music that's beneath me now.
Yeah, I'm not making that much money over there. I'm cool on that. I'm cool on that.
Exactly.
Drew, what about you? You got a song?
For me, I'm a huge Kanye fan. What he's been
Hey,
doing lately, I don't know, but like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, 808's Graduation, like I can just put on any of those and be happy.
Man,
But I guess I also have like a pretty wide range. Lately, like studying or like doing work and stuff, I do more like listen to like folk stuff. So like The Head and the Heart and Camp, stuff like that.
oh, Camp. Okay, you
where
like
where,
Camp?
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
where do you go to school, Drew?
What's that?
What school do you go to?
Taylor University. It's a pretty small school. It's in Indiana.
In Indiana. Oh, all right. I would say I went to school in North Carolina. I'm not gonna lie. Some country music could be sneaking on my playlist now. I don't.
Hey,
I be looking around like, who put this here? Knowing I made my own playlist.
yo, there's some bops in country music.
Man.
Folk for sure. Maggie Rogers, Camp is dope. That's
Mhm.
crazy. I like that.
How about
I've been going down like grime music. Really interested in this British London type drill music, which has been just something I've had on rotation. One of the artists, his name is Dutchavelli. So I just been really vibing to that. I'm trying to really get international more in 2021. So I would love to. My goal, leaving opportunity, is to manage a artist from overseas and kind of bring them to the U.S. and then do the exchange, vice versa. Bring U.S. artists more so into their world as well.
shit? Well, you need to get into K-pop. I hear
That's facts. I'm late
K-pop.
though. I'm late on K-pop.
I'm
That's the
super
issue.
late on K-pop. I saw them on TV. I was like, who are these people? I want to listen to music. I'm gonna be honest, not my cup of tea, but their fandom, I respect.
Crazy.
Talk about building a community between like Travis Scott, Lil Uzi Vert, maybe Meg Thee Stallion, Beyonce, Rihanna. That's like the only people that I think in America really have that level of like fanatic fandom, like K-pop stars. Their fans go hard.
No, K-pop is wild. Like it blew up. I didn't even know what it was, and then I was like, wow. And they're coming to the U.S. and doing like United Center 2 nights, not just one night, 2 nights, like back
Yeah,
to back.
facts.
Crazy.
So
All
it's
right.
crazy. But I want to I appreciate you jumping on here,
This was
having a conversation with us, dropping so many jewels, man.
Yeah, Karl, thank you so much for coming on, dropping the wisdom, making me want to run through a brick wall. Love it.
I appreciate you guys, man. I'm just a humble servant, man. Like I said, I feel like my goal, my purpose in life is to help other people be great. Right now, I'm doing it through storytelling, but who knows what that's going to look like in the next 3 to 5 years for me. But I feel like as long as I continue to chase that dream, and I move with purpose and live in my purpose, I'll be straight.
Definitely. And we just want to give you a round of applause. That's what we do in our virtual internship. Always show love. So for all of those listening, whether this is your morning routine, afternoon routine, or maybe the thing you listen to before you go to sleep, thanks for tuning in to Have a Map. Skirt, skirt. We're out.